relationships and network, that is where the money is. That is where the gold is, right? And many times as women of color, we don't have that network to tap into, or if we're in a new space, we don't really have anyone to lean on, any mentors and all of that, right? And so I do believe that is one thing that is really kind of, prolonging our timeline to scale. But that's just one of many.
Hello, Profit First entrepreneurs and thought leaders. I am so excited. Today we have a really special guest. We have Chandra Sanders that's joining us today. And Chandra is a unwielding champion of social impact who is really devoted to advancing her mission to promoting economic empowerment of women. Now, Chandra is the founder of a company called Heels and Hustle LLC. That is a media and consulting company that's based in Austin, Texas. And she orchestrates transformative workplace evolution where purpose and progress interact. In her recent role as VP of Rise at the Mom Project, Chandra embarked on a vital mission, and that was to propel mothers and women of color through upskilling initiatives, shaping a more auspicious global landscape. And she was actually able to achieve over a $17 million salary increase for these women in just under 3 years. Her initiative created over 7,000 scholarship recipients, and she equipped them with digital skills so they could get these coveted roles in today's dynamic job market. Chandra is known and recognized. She was actually celebrated in Fast Company as the harbinger of transformative change and its esteemed world-changing idea accolade. Her influence expands prestigious publications such as Glamour magazine. She's also been featured on Comcast, SAP, ABC, NBC, and CBS. And today we are having a very intense conversation. I'm so excited to bring Chandra on our podcast because we're going to talk about really stepping into who you are and building your business in quite a significant way. So please join me in welcoming Chandra to our platform. Hey, Chandra, how are you doing today?
I am wonderful. How are you?
Good. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. So first of all, you know me, I love getting the backstory. I love getting what first of all got you onto this mission of really pivoting these women's lives from a social economic manner.
I would have to say what really got me started was my own personal story of transformation and pivoting. In one of the articles, I did refer to myself as the queen of pivoting because I do feel that way because I've been pivoting since birth pretty much, right? So when I was born, I went to foster care, then adopted, and then just a whole bunch of different pivots and upgrades that are still continuing through life. But with all of those pivots and with all of those perceived challenges, I didn't stop, right? It didn't stop me. I kept going. Right. And so I made it my own personal mission to help other women get through life and continue to grow and to continue to believe in themselves and reach new heights. So that's what started my journey. But it all came from kind of within and the change that I experienced. And it's really my duty to really help bring that out of other women.
I love it. Very important stuff there, and incredible journey too. Incredible journey, and I see that you have a book there behind you, and it's called The Essential Upgrade for you guys that are listening on the podcast side. But definitely want to learn more about that story. We'll check that out. But today, what I wanted to talk about is, I think that historically, even statistically, women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses, were some of the fastest businesses that more minority businesses open up. More women-owned businesses open up than pretty much any other type of company in the world. But one of the interesting impacts or facts about it is a lot of these businesses don't necessarily reach their fullest potential, right? We don't get the percentage of the pie, the percentage of the GDP. And I wanted today to talk about how can we create so a different viewpoint, take more of the pie per se, and really grow into really who we're meant to be. And so I'm excited to bring you on today to have that discussion. So first of all, Chandra, let's talk about what are some things that, why is it that women and minority-owned businesses, we don't grow like some of the larger companies do? What is the thing that's holding us back?
That is a loaded question, right? What's holding us back? I'm going to say it's both systemic and personal, right? Let's start with systemic, right? So, there are times where women and minorities really are hitting glass ceilings in the workplace and are wanting to continue to grow, but really don't see an opportunity. So they are leaving the workforce in droves right now, right? And creating their own. But the challenge that I see with that is that we really don't get the experience, the exposure to the network and how things work and how money is obtained to really be able to do and replicate the same things that these other companies are doing. I, again, started my career a long time ago as a high school Spanish teacher, but also while doing that, I've been a serial entrepreneur too, right? I've had multiple small businesses from retail. Now I'm doing consulting and some other things as well. But in order for me to grow, I had to experience growth from other companies and working in other companies and working at different levels of other companies to know and to get a vision and to figure out how things work, right? So I'm going to say network is number one. If you've never seen it, it's going to take a little bit longer. It's not that you can't do it, but it's going to take you a little bit longer to see how things work. But I also believe that relationships and network, that is where the money is. That is where the gold is, right? And, many times as women of color, we don't have that network to tap into, or if we're in a new space, we don't really have anyone to lean on, any mentors and all of that, right? And so I do believe that is one thing that is really kind of, prolonging our timeline to scale. But that's just one of many.
I love it. So really just building that network. And it's a tricky conversation because a lot of times, when we're working for someone else, starting out that career, like many of us do, we start by working under somebody else. And sometimes we're chosen for opportunities to move in different directions, right? We're selected we're giving mentors, and sometimes we're not giving mentors, right? Sometimes we're overlooked, right? They don't see that diamond in the rough. And so let's talk about if you're not necessarily meeting people because you're not being pulled around, you're not being necessarily championed, right? How do you get that right experience to get that right exposure? What does networking look like? How do you reach out to find that person that is going to be able to expose you to different things or give you different opportunities?
I would have to say you would have to put yourself in these situations, right? Attend events, talk to people, attend different type of, I would say, charity events. There are a lot of events out there that you can go and really meet people and have genuine connections with people, right? In this situation, when you're talking about relationships and you're talking about mentors and you want someone to really open up to you and provide you some true guidance, like it's more than just a mentorship experience, right? It is a relationship building. There needs to be trust. There needs to be a relationship in order to really get the most out of that. But it's really just putting yourself in position, right? So if there's a conference going on or any like webinars or any virtual events, whatever you need to do to put yourself in a space where you can learn from other people, connect with other people, and really get more a well-rounded view of the industry that you're in and make those connections. I believe that's really where you should start.
I love that, right? It's really being in that room, right? Getting yourself in the room where people that are going to make decisions are at, right? With that. And, part of it too is, I think that we were not necessarily, there's things that you learn, whether you have a mentor buddy or even a big sister, right? Like, I remember one of my jobs, when I was working in corporate America, and I really wanted this manager role. And, and I was, I'd been there, I had the experience, I had the resume, every criteria that they were bringing in these people. And I was like, why do I feel like they're not like talking to me? Why are they not inviting like, hey, Suzanne, why don't you want it? And I remember the manager that was leaving, she took me in her office. She goes, Suzanne, you need to go into the director's office and tell me you want the job. That's what you're missing. You've got the qualification. Everybody they're interviewing, you're actually stronger than. You need to ask for the job. And sometimes it's, having that person to kind of tell you, hey, nobody's noticing you because you're not speaking up, right? You're not telling anyone that you're interested in it. And so having that person. So now as you're networking in this room and as you're meeting people, Chandra, what are some ways to kind of, I guess, initiate those deeper level conversations? Because I think that we've all been there, right? For me, I'm a bit introverted. I imagine a lot of our listeners might be too, right? How do you initiate conversations with people that can really change your world?
So a lot of this is research, right? So research the conference you're going to. Sometimes you can find out there are like attendees that'll be there. But figure out what goals you have from this, right? But find something in common, right? I talk to salespeople all the time and they're like not afraid to go up and make that sale and do those things, right? But it's because they just find something in common. Oh, it's such a beautiful day. Oh God, it's cold in here. You have to find something to really try to initiate a conversation that's not really asking for anything, that is not really whatever. It's just very genuine and authentic, right? Just like you would approach just a regular relationship, but do your research. Know what you're getting in before you get in there. Have a game plan, right? But then also just try to find something in common and be proactive and be confident. Just like when you were afraid to, or kind of not really afraid, but just kind of second guessing, possibly asking about the manager role, right? We have been told so many times as women of color, for sure, like just think twice, don't say too much. It may come across as this, it may come across as aggressive, but that has held us back for a while, right? And it's time. And if you don't take control of your own destiny, then you're going to be left behind. So yeah, do your work, do the homework. This is the fun part of running your business. It's starting it up. It's making those connections. And if you really want to get that 7-figure deal, if you really want to get those maximum profits, you have to maximize your strategy with relationships and networking.
Oh, yeah. And, I think another thing too, Chandra, is stepping into who you want to be, figuring out who do you want to be as your brand. Do you want to be known for thought leadership? Do you want to be known as a solution? And if you do, what does that look like? What does that look like as you're entering that room? Are you sitting there meekly in the corner, waiting for someone to notice you? Or are you joining in the conversation and immediately adding value? Like, well, this is what I've seen that's done before, and really advertising that thought leadership too, because that's going to attract people that want to have more of those conversations and implement those too. It's going to be really important with that.
100% agree with that.
So, Chandra, and in addition to networking, what else is needed really for us to be able to step in to our own as businesses that scale into taking over the majority of GDP?
I think that I'm going to go back to what you said. It's really knowing who you are, what you want, standing in that, doing your research, figuring out who you are so that you can hit the ground running, right? It's not easy. Like entrepreneurship, it's not easy. And you're going to be told no a million times, but you have to be committed. You have to be dedicated. You have to know who you are, what you want, and you have to, like, no matter what, like, know that you're not going to stop. That is the solution, because it's not easy at all, right? But it's also having partnerships, collaborating with others who you may see maybe a few steps ahead, or in collaboration with you could be a major powerhouse, right? So it's different strategies that you have to implement, but it all really starts with you, your business, your brand, knowing who you are to figure out who your power partners are or whatever to really help take you to that next space.
I love that. And that is so true. So many people want to operate in a silo. They are like, oh, this is my intellectual capital. This is who I am. And I want to protect that. But the problem is when you're protecting it, you become the world's best kept secret, right? Nobody knows who you are. And it's about, you're not going to be able to do everything. And if you want to serve as bigger, it's going to be bringing in the right partners. And that doesn't necessarily mean employees, but it might be partnering with another company or partnering with somebody with a different skill set. And like, how can we tackle this in a way that really brings the best impact? How do we bid together on a project? How do we work together to collaborate to 10x what we have to offer here?
And it really works. I've seen it multiple times in many different startups, but also in Fortune 100 companies, right? No one is doing it alone. Everyone has someone that they're working with. They may not advertise it, but they're not doing it alone. And when you have that partner, it really brings a lot of brand awareness and economic power and opportunities to both if you do it the right way and making sure that you're choosing the right strategic partners. But again, it all starts with who you are and who's your business and the purpose of that so that you don't go astray.
Now, something else that I've seen, and it's really disturbed me, is I think as women-owned businesses, as minority-owned business, color, people of color, we don't ask for our worth, right? There's a lot of times that I see where maybe we're partnering on a project as a sub, and your prime is like marking up whatever you're charging because your gap is so low, your price is so low compared to what they're going to charge ultimately. Or working, logistics, working on the brokers when you could completely be the prime on these contracts and be the broker. And it's just, just not stepping into our full potential. First of all, why does that happen, and how do we get over that so that we can start to reach for bigger things?
It all, still kind of goes back to, oh God, can I? And that confidence of, can I step into who I really am? Should I just accept this to have something? And sometimes there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes you have to accept a little bit less to get more. I do it all the time, but it always like works. It's very strategic, right? And what I decide to accept, but it's really just knowing who you are. And when you're ready, like just knowing your worth as a person, but knowing your worth as a company and not accepting any less. There are tons of companies out there who say what they want and they get that. And us as women and women of color, we can do it too. It's just not going to be as easy, but maybe, but also having the right partners and the right network and having those relationships makes that transition to sub to primary easier. I find that relationships is really what makes the difference, especially for women and women of color. Like I worked at a startup and it was a female minority owned startup. But there was just so much potential and so much power because of the different partners that they had, the allies that they had who really wanted to see them win and presented them with opportunities to scale, right? Presented them with opportunities to grow. And so that's, again, there's just a lot of potential in your partners and in your relationships. And I think that as women and women of color, we haven't valued that. And I can say that speaking for me, because I feel like many times I've been the only woman in the room, the only Black woman in the room for sure, the only mom in the room, the only single mom in the room. Like I'm always like the only one of whatever in the room. And so it's just really hard to find someone who you align with, who you feel comfortable with. And so we just decided to go alone. And that's just not like, you can only go so far alone. You really need those partners and those relationships to really help take you to that next space. But we do have to ask.
Yeah. And I think there's also a role that we play in this too, right, Chandra? As being a champion for each other. When you find a woman-owned business or minority-owned business that does an amazing job, champion that business, right? We have that duty to champion each other for the quality that we bring and make those referrals, make those recommendations. And that's how we elevate as a whole.
That's how we do. That's how we elevate. And I am, again, that's part of my mission because, I have been elevated, right? And now I want to elevate others, right? And then when you elevate someone else, they want to elevate, like the chain, it just keeps going. So it's just very important to really help other women in this space, but it's hard when there's only one woman in the space and she can't help everyone. So again, I'm on a mission just to really help as many women just like you, just to get the most out of their entrepreneurship journey. It doesn't have to stay a small business. It's not easy. It is possible, but you just have to make sure you have the right connections, the right business plan, all of those things to really put yourself in position to get the most out of it.
Now, I love the fact that you got $17 million in salary increases in just 3 years for participants in your RISE program. I'm curious, what was the main trigger for that significant salary increase? Like what was, when you looked at the common denominator of women that were coming to you, I just got a pay raise. I just got a pay raise. When you asked why or what contributed to that, what was the primary factor that contributed to that $17 million?
So yes, we've gotten women who were gotten promoted, right? There were women who had gone back to work after being out of work for 10 years, maybe more. But what really helped them get back into work was getting access to digital skills at a fast pace, right? So we were upskilling in 6 months or less, but not just that. While we were upskilling them in their skills, we were transforming their mindsets because they had been through so much, especially during the pandemic, right? Just so many challenges. So we really had a lot to overcome mentally in a lot of our women so that they could effectively get through their skilling but also effectively sell themselves in an interview and have that confidence and just know who they are and know their worth. And that's really what attributed to such an amazing impact in less than 3 years for women who needed it most. Women of color, moms, single moms, women who just really needed this the most. They were able to get the most out of it in a fast pace, but they did the work, right? It's not easy. They did the work. They worked the inside as well as the outside, because you can't just work on your skills without working on your inside, right? And so that's something that we are not able to neglect anymore. Human sustainability is now a hot topic, especially in the workplace. So we kind of made a program that kind of encapsulated all those things. And our women were able to get amazing economic opportunities and increases in a short amount of time.
I love that. That were so many juicy morsels there for our entrepreneurs. One of the things that Chandra said was she upskilled these women, but not just upskilled them, but upskilled them so they could take jobs that were more digital in nature. And at that time, that was what was needed in the world. And so, my question for you entrepreneurs is, what can you do now that'll put you in a place that you really stand out? What is your market craving from you right now that they're just not getting anywhere else that you can bring? And if that's a digital side, that's the digital side. Maybe it's something we haven't even seen yet, right? That's coming down through the pipeline. What's coming right now that your market needs that nobody else is able to answer? Because yes, we may be small as women minority owned businesses, but we are nimble and we are mighty, right? And we are fast to market. And what does the market need yesterday, right? That still isn't there that we can bring to the market there. And that's how you get, I'm a big fan of how do you get to the sole source? Everybody wants a government contract, but how do you become sole source, right? Where there's no bid when it comes to hiring you, and you become sole source by bringing something to the market that isn't available right now. My next question, and Chandra mentioned this too, was, it starts on the inside is what she said, right? It starts on the inside. It starts with, me believing that I'm worthy to stand before you and ask to be your prime and ask for this price, right? And knowing that, I have the track record, I can work on our prime, but they're just going to mark up my work, right? Make more for doing nothing from my labor, right? How do we get to stand in that mindset of knowing that we are worthy to ask for the price that we command? Because again, if we're not getting enough margins, right? Revenue, less cost of goods sold, cost of services, we're not going to be able to hire the best. We're not going to be able to build the right infrastructure. So you're doing this for your team, right? Chandra, what are your thoughts on some takeaways that our entrepreneurs can do to really set themselves mentally up to get ready for the game when they're asking for the sell?
So there's a lot, and especially when it comes to leaders who kind of have their hands in everything. And sometimes when your hands are in everything, you really don't know what's going on. You can't see at high level, right? And so I'm a huge proponent of just taking some time, taking a step back, whether that's 30 minutes a day, just some time where you can really center yourself, your mind, your thoughts, think about your business holistically, think about where you are, think about where you want to be. Right. And you said something that was really amazing, which was about what can you bring to the market that is not there, that is missing, but you won't know that if you're deep in the wood or the weeds, or if you're dealing with this and you're dealing with that. So again, like I mentioned, human sustainability is a huge thing. It's about growth and it's about wellness. And as a leader and a business owner who there's, burnout is at an all-time high right now. And I'm one of these. I work all night, all day. But I also prioritize my mental health so that I can be at the optimal space for my business, for myself, for my family. Because if I don't, all three will crumble. And I'm still trying to get there. And I want to make sure that I'm at the forefront of all of these things so that I can get the most from, the companies, and the companies can also get the most value from the services that I'll offer as well. But again, it's about taking time for you, making sure that you have clarity, your vision, your purpose, and just always looking to the future and to really analyze any possible gaps or, innovation that you can bring to the market.
That is so true. I think that as women owned businesses, we're used to carrying the weight of the world, right? I saw this post on Facebook, and My husband thought it was funny. I was like, it's actually kind of sad. And it was a picture of people racing. And, there were the men, they've got their ties on, they're getting ready to starting line. And like, you got the women on the other side, and they've got laundry in front of them. They've got babies with diapers in front of them. And Chandra, you're like nodding your head, like, yes, I've seen that. And it's true, as women, we have to cross so many hurdles just to get started, right? Like, it's almost like Cinderella. I got to make sure that the kids are all fed and sent off to school before I get to play work, right? It's how it feels. And, and it's important that, that's a disability, right? That's a disadvantage when you have to do so many things just to be able to start the race. And so it's really just about, like Chandra said, it's leveraging your resources, leveraging, hey, maybe I need to get that assistant so that she can take some things off of my plate. So that I can have that time to be able to think strategically and be equivalent to those guys in the ties that are about to take off running with no hurdles in front of them, right? What do I need to do to be able to do that and get that clear head to have that advantage is so important from that standpoint.
Yeah. And just to add on, so let me just add a little bit about myself and how I do this. As a single mom, I'm a single mom of 3, and my house is empty by 7:15 because everyone's at school by 7:15. But by 7:30, I'm out walking for my walk so that I can get my mind right for 8 to start my day. Like, I have to walk from 7:30 to 8 to really get my mind right, to really let go of what may have happened this morning. My kids are fussing or whatever. I just need to let all of that go so that I can have a fresh mind and clarity to start my day. So that's how I do. Everyone just has to kind of figure out something that works for them. It could just be like wake up a few minutes early, go outside, have a cup of coffee, watch the sunrise. There just has to be some type of sacred time that you have with you and yourself so that you can be, again, the best for everyone in your view.
And it does help you too, right? It helps you to start the day with a clear head, to be able to focus and, get over that anger having sitting at the car line for like 20 minutes, especially at the beginning of the school year. Get those evil spirits out of the way, from that standpoint. So very, very important from that standpoint. Now, Chandra, this was an amazing conversation. And, one of the things that I like to ask my guests is if you could leave our viewers, our listeners, with one piece of advice, it can be business, it can be personal. What would that advice be?
Take some time for you and trust your journey. That is like the answer to life. Trust it. Take time for you so that you can know which way to move. But yeah, that's it.
I love it. I love it. Very, very good thoughts on that. Now, Chandra, how do we get in contact with you? How do we work with you? How do we learn more?
Of course. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Chandra Sanders. I also have a website, chandrasanders.co, and Facebook, Instagram, officially Chandra.
And what I'm going to do for you guys that are driving is I'm going to put Chandra's contact information in the show notes so that you'll be able to reach out to her to connect and to learn more. Thank you, Chandra, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.